Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and fellow advocates for the sanctity and value of human life. As we gather here today to address one of the most profound and disturbing challenges that humanity has faced throughout history, genocide and genocide-like crimes, it is crucial that we confront this issue with unwavering determination and a commitment to change. The atrocities that have plagued our world, from Rwanda to the former Yugoslavia, from Germany to Sudan, from the US to Australia, from Spain to the Philippines, right? We have seen genocides in all these places, from the Palestinian territory of Gaza to countless other regions, remind us of the darkest depths to which human beings can descend. The post-World War II codification of international law, with the Genocide Convention standing as a beacon of hope, was intended to eradicate such heinous crimes from our midst. Yet, despite our collective promises and legal frameworks, genocide continues to stain our conscience with alarming frequency. Why, in the face of such abhorrent violence, do we fail time and time again to protect the innocent and uphold the sanctity of human life? The answers lie in the flawed structures that we have created and the self-interest that often guides our actions, the incomplete status of the genocide law, the realities of state practices that is happening all over the world, and the dilemma within the United Nations systems all contribute to the ongoing prevalence of genocide and genocide-like crimes. The flaw in the genocide framework simply means, that has been alluded earlier by other speakers, they have reduced the definition of genocide to only 4 categories of people: national, ethnicity, racial, and religion. All other category of people, if they are killed, are not categorized as genocide. The United Nations, when they approach things, their very essence, their very nature is neutrality. So when genocides happen, they are slow to act on it because they want to be seen to remain neutral. In terms of the behavior of the states, everyone has self-interest. They have economic interests in the areas where genocide is happening. When we saw genocide in Darfur, for example, South Sudan, China has economic interests, therefore they use their veto power in the Security Council. When what is happening today in Gaza, there is one state there that will always refuse to vote for any action against the perpetrator. Again, in the Security Council, there is a total flaw in the structure of the United Nations. But let us be clear, failure in the face of genocide is not inevitable. It is actually a choice that we can actively work to change. We must expand the definition of genocide to include, for example, the destruction of political and social groups. When we saw some people in Indonesia sometime in the 50s or before independence, right? They profess, they follow communism. When all communists in Indonesia were killed, they were not categorized as having fallen due to genocide because it was political. right? When the atrocities in Cambodia and Rwanda happened, the perpetrators argued that those who were killed were part of a political group trying to use the loophole that exists within the convention to get out of their accountability. So we must expand or go back to the original definition of genocide. We must also broaden our interpretation of genocidal intent to hold more perpetrators accountable. We must grant universal jurisdiction to bodies like the International Criminal Court, and we must reform the United Nations Security Council to remove barriers to effective actions. But beyond legal and structural changes, we must cultivate a sense of moral obligation, a duty ingrained within each of us and within our states, to protect the vulnerable and prevent atrocities. The responsibility to protect principle calls upon us to uphold basic human rights and intervene when states fail in their duty to protect their people. It is a principle that must guide our actions and decisions both individually and collectively. This is beyond legal framework. Right? So we already have a flawed international legal framework and flawed international law against genocide. What we must recognize, ladies and gentlemen, what I have suggested in terms of improving those laws and legal framework so far are actually nothing new. They have been propagated by so many others for so many years. In fact, from the day the convention was established, people have been asking for it to be improved, but it was not. We have not seen any real progress in this improvement. Thus, the inadequacy and failure of the current international laws and legal framework against genocide persists as evident in various parts of the world. So despite the existence of the Genocide Convention and other mechanisms aimed at preventing and punishing genocide, we continue to witness mass atrocities that claim the lives of innocent men, women, and children. We are seeing it happening daily in Gaza. It is clear that we need more aggressive and rigorous framework that serve as a true deterrent against genocidal acts. It is in this context, ladies and gentlemen, that I introduce the Cause of Genocide framework inspired and expounded under the Gombak Declaration under Declaration 6. This framework challenges us to rethink our approach to combating genocide by shifting the focus from reactive measures to proactive strategies that address the root causes and motivation behind genocidal acts, effectively money. The Cause of Genocide framework represents a transformative approach to confronting one of humanity's most heinous crimes by imposing substantial and escalating financial penalties on nations and leaders who engage in acts of genocide. This framework aims not only to deter potential offenders, but also to foster a culture of accountability and respect of human rights. The integration of a standard daily fine, so for as long as the genocide persists in that particular area, there will be a daily fine imposed on the perpetrators. One of the suggestions is to impose a $100 billion fine a day, but then that's subject to debate. On top of the daily fine, there will be a multiplier framework based on the severity of the atrocity and the demographic targeted, ensures that the penalties reflect the profound impact of such violence on individuals and communities. By emphasizing restitution and recovery investments, the framework prioritizes the needs of victims and survivors, facilitating their healing and rebuilding efforts in the aftermath of the event. By providing incentive for countries to implement effective genocide prevention strategies and enhancing public accountability through transparent reporting, this framework can cultivate a proactive international environment where the protection of human rights is paramount. Ultimately, the cause of genocide framework has the potential to reshape global norms and strengthen the collective commitment to preventing genocide, ensuring that the lessons of the past illuminate the path toward a more just and humane future. In doing so, it aligns humanitarian values with tangible consequences, making it clear that genocide will not be tolerated in any form. The message is simply this: the cost of inaction is far greater than the cost of prevention. In closing, let us remember that genocide and genocide-like crimes are not insurmountable challenges. They are human-made atrocities with human solutions. Let us work together to build a world where the intent of the Genocide Convention is realized and where the horrors of these crimes are no longer a reality. Let us recommit ourselves to the value of human rights, peace and justice, and let us strive towards a future where every day is valued and protected. And the only way to do this is to introduce a new mechanism and framework in international law that bypasses the United Nations Security Council for action to be imposed against perpetrator of genocide. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pak Dato', for that idea of framework in order to strengthen the way of how the policies of implementation in relation to the Palestine and the genocide in Palestine that we are suffering at the moment. We may now move to the next presentation or speech from Professor Muhammad Mizan Muhammad Aslam, who is a professor of security and strategic studies at the National Defense